The rain came down in sheets across the Arizona desert, turning the asphalt into a black mirror that reflected nothing but darkness. The kind of rain that makes a man question his choices. The kind that washes away everything except the truth. Colt Thornton sat at the head of a long table in the Devil's Disciples Clubhouse, surrounded by 8 chapter presidents from across the Southwest. Maps spread out before them, territory lines, business arrangements, the usual dance of power that kept the peace between clubs. His phone vibrated against the scarred wood. Once, twice, 3 times. He didn't move, didn't even glance down. A man in his position couldn't afford to show weakness. Not here. Not with this many alphas in one room. The phone vibrated again. This time it didn't stop. Colt's jaw tightened. His hand moved slowly, deliberately to the device. The screen glowed in the dim light of the clubhouse. Urgent. Mama Iris. Code red. Below it, a single photo, grainy, sent from Wade's burner phone. An old woman on the floor, blood at the corner of her mouth, eyes closed. The table went silent. Every man there knew that look. The one that crossed Colt's face like a shadow. The one that meant someone had just made a fatal mistake. "Gentlemen," Colt said, his voice flat as a knife blade. "We're done here." He stood, 6'3" of leather and muscle, and barely contained violence. "I have personal business to attend to." Nobody asked questions. When Reaper said personal, it meant blood. It meant someone had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Axel, his vice president, caught his eye. 52 years old and hard as iron. He'd ridden with Colt for 20 years. He knew. "How many brothers you want?" "All of them within 20 miles. Full colors. 5 minutes." Axel nodded once and pulled out his phone. Colt walked to the door, pulled on his helmet, and straddled his bike. A 2018 Harley Road King, black as midnight, chrome that caught the rain like liquid silver. The engine roared to life. That deep, guttural sound that makes a man's blood move faster. The sound of thunder and judgment. Behind him, 24 more engines answered, 72 hours earlier. The Devil's Disciples Clubhouse sat on the edge of the Badlands, a sprawling compound of corrugated steel and concrete that had been home to 3 generations of outlaws. The main building housed the chapel, the bar, and the garage. Around it, scattered like satellites, were workshops, storage units, and a few crash pads for brothers who had nowhere else to go. Colt stood in the garage, hands black with grease, rebuilding a carburetor on a 1973 shovelhead. The radio played low, classic rock, Skinnerd, the kind of music that made sense when you were elbow deep in machinery. "Boss," Jericho appeared in the doorway, 29 years old, prospect, eager to prove himself. He'd been with the club for 8 months, doing the grunt work, learning the code. Colt didn't look up from the bike. "Report. Mama Iris is good. 4 shifts this week. Home safe every night. No problems. Anyone bothering her?" "Not that we saw." "She eating enough?" Jericho hesitated. "Hard to say, boss. She don't eat much at the diner, maybe at home." Colt's hands stilled on the wrench. "Make sure Dusty comps her meals. Put it on the club tab." "Already done." "Good." Colt resumed working. "Anything else?" "Wade says there's some rich kids been coming to the diner 3, 4 times this week. Loud. Obnoxious. But they haven't crossed any lines." Colt's jaw tightened. "Define obnoxious." "Snapping fingers at staff, complaining about everything, leaving shit tips, that kind of thing." "They touch her?" "No, sir." "Keep watching. If they so much as raise their voice at her, I want to know immediately." Jericho nodded and disappeared. Axel walked in a moment later, carrying 2 beers. He set one down next to Colt and leaned against the workbench. 7 years, brother." Colt took a long pull from the bottle. "I'm aware. She ain't getting younger. Neither are we. That ain't the point, and you know it." Axel's voice was gentle but firm. The voice of a man who'd earned the right to speak truth. She's 76 years old, working part-time on her feet, living in that trailer park. How much longer are you going to keep this up? As long as she wants it this way. You ever think maybe she's waiting for you to make the first move? Colt set down the wrench and looked at his VP. She told me to leave, said she couldn't watch me choose violence over family. Her exact words. I respect that. Respect is one thing, stubbornness is another. She doesn't want to see me, Axel, but I'll be damned if I let anything happen to her. That's the deal. That's how it is. Axel sighed and drank his beer. All right, brother, your call. Just remember, time don't wait for pride. After he left, Colt pulled out his phone, scrolled through his contacts to the one labeled, Mom, don't call. His thumb hovered over it. Behind that contact was a photo from 7 years ago. His mother in her Sunday dress, standing outside the church where his father's memorial service had been held. 34 years after Hank Thornton died in the Gulf War, they'd finally gotten around to honoring him properly. Colt had shown up in his colors, full patch, surrounded by 50 brothers. His mother had looked at him like he was a stranger. After the ceremony, she'd pulled him aside. I can't do this anymore, Colt. I can't watch you become what took your father from me. Ma, it's not the same. Violence is violence. Death is death. You chose this life. I can't be part of it. You're asking me to leave the club? I'm asking you to choose, them or me. He'd looked at her, really looked, saw the gray in her hair, the lines around her eyes, the tremble in her hands. I can't leave them, Ma. They're my family. Then I guess you've made your choice. She'd walked away, got into her old Buick, driven off without looking back. That was the last time they'd spoken, but it wasn't the last time he'd protected her. 2 days later, he'd called Jericho and Wade into his office. You two are on special assignment, effective immediately. They'd stood at attention, waiting. There's a woman, 76 years old, works at Dusty's Route 66 diner. Her name is Iris Thornton. You will watch her. You will protect her. You will never let her know you're doing it. If anyone threatens her, bothers her, or so much as looks at her wrong, you report to me directly. Are we clear? Yes, sir, they'd said in unison. This assignment is permanent. It ends when I say it ends. No exceptions. Understood, boss. For 7 years, they'd kept watch. 2 prospects, rotating shifts, making sure an old woman who wanted nothing to do with her son stayed safe anyway. Because that's what you did for family, even when family didn't want you. Colt put the phone away and went back to work on the shovelhead. His hands moved automatically. Remove the old jets, clean the passages, install the new parts. The kind of work that lets a man's mind wander. He thought about his father, Hank Thornton, Marine Corps, deployed to the Gulf in 1990, never came home. Colt had been 2 years old when the telegram arrived, too young to remember his father's face, too young to understand why his mother cried for months. Everything he knew about Hank came from stories, from old photos, from the dog tags his mother kept in a jewelry box and never wore. Hank had been a good man, a strong man, the kind who believed in duty and honor and protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, the kind who died for those beliefs. Colt had spent his whole life trying to live up to a ghost, trying to be the man his father would have been proud of. But somewhere along the way, he'd chosen a different path. Not the Marines, not the straight life, the club, the brotherhood, the outlaw code. His mother saw it as betrayal, as spitting on his father's memory. Colt saw it differently. His father had died protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. The club did the same thing, just outside the lines the law drew. Maybe that made him a criminal. Maybe that made him a hypocrite, but it made him effective. And when the law failed people like his mother, someone had to step up. Day 1. Wade called at 3:47 in the afternoon. Boss, we got a situation developing. Colt was in a meeting with the club's accountant, going over the books for their legitimate businesses. He excused himself and stepped outside. "Talk to me." Four guys just walked into the diner, late 30s, early 40s, expensive clothes, driving a Mercedes G-Wagon, Colorado plates. So, they're treating the staff like shit, snapping fingers, sending food back, making demands. Mama Iris is their waitress. Colt's hand tightened on the phone. Has she said anything to them? She apologized twice for things that weren't her fault. They're laughing at her. Are they drunk? Don't think so. Just entitled. Get me names, plates, everything, but don't approach. I want to know who these people are before we make a move. Copy that. Colt hung up and stood there in the desert heat, feeling the rage build in his chest like a slow fire. Entitled rich kids. The kind who thought money meant they could treat people however they wanted. The kind who'd never had anyone punch them in the mouth. The kind who needed to learn respect. But he couldn't just roll in there. Not yet. His mother would never forgive him for causing a scene, for bringing the club into her workplace. No, this required patience, strategy. An hour later, Cypher called. The club's tech expert, 40 years old, former software engineer who'd gotten tired of corporate America and found his way to the club through a shared love of motorcycles and a talent for making problems disappear. Got IDs on all four, Cypher said. Running them through the system now. Give me the short version. Lead guy is Decker Ashford, 41, son of Preston Ashford, real estate developer out of Scottsdale. Net worth north of $400 million. The other three are associates. Vaughn Keller, Barrett Price, Sterling Hunt. All trust fund kids. All with records for minor offenses. DU is possession. Assault charges that got dropped. What's Ashford doing in this area? That's the interesting part. His daddy owns 17 properties within a 5-mile radius of that diner, all purchased in the last 18 months, all formerly low-income housing or small businesses. Colt's blood went cold. He's buying up the neighborhood. Looks that way. There's permits filed for something called Ashford Heights Luxury District, mixed-use development, condos, retail, restaurants, the works. How many properties does he need for the project? According to the permits, he needs 20 contiguous parcels. He's got 17, which means 3 businesses are standing in his way. Bingo! And one of them is Dusty's Route 66 Diner. Colt closed his eyes. This isn't random harassment. No, sir, this is a pressure campaign. Make the staff miserable, drive away customers, force the owner to sell. Do we know if Dusty's been contacted about selling? Working on that. Give me a few hours. Colt hung up and called Axel. Get the senior members together, war room, 1 hour. What are we looking at? Gentrification with a side of elder abuse. And if we don't handle this right, it's going to get ugly. Day 2. Jericho reported that Decker and his crew came back, stayed for 2 hours, ordered food, barely touched it, sent it back multiple times, ran Iris ragged going back and forth to the kitchen. When they left, they tipped $3 on a $90 check. Colt wanted to ride over there and drag Decker out by his hair, wanted to teach him what happened when you disrespected a man's mother. But he didn't. Instead, he sent Cypher deeper into the Ashford family finances, sent a prospect to talk to other business owners in the area, sent Axel to have a quiet conversation with Dusty. The picture that emerged was uglier than he'd expected. Preston Ashford had been doing this for years. Buy up struggling neighborhoods, harass the holdouts, use legal pressure, financial pressure, and when necessary, physical intimidation to force people out. Then tear everything down and build luxury developments. 12 years, 6 neighborhoods, hundreds of families displaced. And nobody had stopped him because he had lawyers, politicians, and money. The kind of money that bought silence, that bought compliance, that bought justice itself. We're looking at organized crime, Axel said during the war room meeting. just wearing expensive suits instead of colors. "What's our play?" asked Bones, the sergeant-at-arms. 55 years old, built like a brick wall, covered in prison tattoos. "We can't just roll in and beat the shit out of them," Colt said. "That's what they'll expect. That's what they'll use to paint us as the bad guys." "So what? We just let them keep disrespecting Mama Iris?" "No, we watch. We document. We build a case. And when the time is right, we move. But we do it smart." Uncle Rust spoke up from the corner. 68 years old, retired from active duty, but still respected. The man who'd found Colt at 16, stealing his motorcycle, and instead of beating him to death had taught him how to be a man. "The boy's right. This ain't about revenge. It's about protection. You go in hot, you prove them right about us. You go in smart, you win." The room murmured agreement. "Cypher, I want everything on Preston and Decker Ashford. Every business deal, every lawsuit, every parking ticket. I want to know what they eat for breakfast." "On it." "Bones, reach out to our contacts in law enforcement. See if anyone's got an open investigation on these guys." "Will do." "Jericho, Wade, you stay on Mama Iris. If anything escalates, you call me immediately. I don't care what time it is." Both prospects nodded. "The rest of you, business as usual. We don't want to tip our hand. We're ghosts until we're not." The meeting broke up. But Colt stayed in the war room, staring at the photos Cypher had pulled up on the projector. Preston Ashford, silver hair, expensive suit, shark's smile. Decker Ashford, younger version of his father, same smile, same eyes, the kind that looked through people instead of at them. These were predators, the legal kind, the kind that destroyed lives with contracts and evictions instead of guns, the kind the system protected. But the system didn't protect everyone, and when it failed, men like Colt stepped in. That was the code. That was the way. Day 3, morning. Wade called at 6:15 a.m. "Boss, you need to hear this." "Go." "I was in the diner having breakfast. Decker and his boys came in early. They didn't see me in the back booth. I recorded them." There was a click, and then voices came through the phone. Decker's voice, smooth and educated. "How much longer do we have to keep this up? I'm bored." Another voice, Vaughn probably. "Your dad said 2 weeks minimum. Break their spirit. They sell cheap." "It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Did you see that old bitch yesterday? Almost started crying when I sent the eggs back for the 3rd time." Laughter. "She reminds me of my grandmother. Except Grandma had the good sense to die in a nursing home where she belonged." More laughter. "After we're done here, where's next on the list?" "That auto shop on 5th and that community center on Roosevelt. God, I can't wait until this whole area is gone. It's such an eyesore." The recording ended. Colt stood perfectly still. His phone felt like it might crumble in his grip. "Boss? Send me that file, encrypted. Already done." "Good work. Stay on them." Colt hung up and called Axel. "Change of plans. I'm going in." "What happened?" "Just got confirmation they're doing this deliberately. It's not random. It's strategic harassment." "Colt, you go in there. Iris is gonna..." "I know, but I can't let this continue. There's a line, Axel. They crossed it." Silence on the other end. Then, "How you want to play it?" "Quiet. I'm going to have breakfast at the diner. Alone. No colors. Just a son checking on his mother. You haven't seen her in 7 years." "I know." "She gonna talk to you?" "Probably not, but she'll know I'm there. And so will Decker." "And if he recognizes you?" "He won't. I'm just another customer. Just another working man getting eggs and coffee." "All right, but I'm putting 2 brothers nearby, just in case." "Fair enough." At 7:30 a.m., Colt walked into Dusty's Route 66 diner, wearing jeans and a plain black t-shirt. No leather, no patches. Just a man you wouldn't look at twice. The diner was classic Americana. Red vinyl booths, checkerboard floor, neon sign buzzing in the window, photos on the walls from the 1950s, when Route 66 was the main artery of American dreams. The smell hit him first. Coffee, bacon, toast. The smell of every morning his mother had ever made him breakfast when he was a kid. And there she was, 76 years old, gray hair pulled back, wearing the diner uniform of a white blouse and black pants, an apron tied around her waist, moving slower than he remembered, favoring her right hip, but still moving, still working, still surviving. Colt felt something crack in his chest, something he'd kept locked down for 7 years. She hadn't seen him yet, was taking an order from a couple in the corner booth, smiling, being pleasant, being professional, being Iris. He sat in a booth against the far wall, picked up a menu he didn't need. When she turned and saw him, the notepad slipped from her hand. For 3 seconds, they just looked at each other. Then she picked up the notepad, straightened her spine, and walked over. Coffee? Her voice was steady, controlled. Please, she poured. Her hands didn't shake. You know what you want? 2 eggs over easy, bacon, wheat toast. That'll be right up. She started to walk away. Ma. She stopped, didn't turn around. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to see you. I'm working. I know. She walked away. Colt sat there, drinking his coffee, watching her move through the diner, refilling cups, taking orders, wiping down tables. She was good at this, always had been, customer service, making people feel welcome. 20 minutes later, his food arrived. She set it down without comment. Thank you. She nodded and left. He ate slowly. The eggs were perfect, the bacon crispy, the toast golden brown. His mother's cooking. He was on his 2nd cup of coffee when they walked in. 4 men in expensive casual wear. Decker in the lead, wearing designer sunglasses even though they were indoors. They sat in Iris's section, deliberately. Colt's hand tightened on his coffee cup. Decker snapped his fingers at Iris, actually snapped his fingers like she was a dog. Waitress, we need menus. She brought them over. Good morning, gentlemen. Can I start you with? Just coffee, and make it quick. We're in a hurry. She poured coffee for all 4. Decker took a sip and made a face. This is cold. I just poured it from a fresh pot, sir. Are you calling me a liar? No, sir, Take it back. Bring me a new cup. And this time, make sure it's actually hot. Iris's hands trembled as she took the cup. Yes, sir. Colt set down his own cup very carefully, stood up, walked to the counter to pay. Dusty was working the register, 58 years old, former Marine. He'd owned this diner for 30 years. She okay? Colt asked quietly. Dusty glanced at Iris. She's tough. Been dealing with those assholes all week. How long can she keep this up? As long as she needs to. Iris don't quit. She's 76. I know how old she is. She's also proud. Won't accept charity. Won't let me cut her hours. Says she needs the work. Colt pulled out 350s. This cover my breakfast? Breakfast is $8. The rest is tip. For her, don't tell her it came from me. Dusty took the money. You know she's gonna figure it out. Let her. Maybe she'll buy herself something nice. He started to leave. Heard Decker's voice rise again. What kind of establishment is this? The service is terrible. The coffee is cold. And this menu is disgusting. Colt stopped at the door, turned, made eye contact with his mother across the diner. She shook her head, just once, barely visible. Don't. He nodded, once, and walked out. But he didn't leave. He got on his bike and rode exactly 1 block, parked where he could see the diner entrance, and waited. That evening, back at the clubhouse, Cypher delivered his full report on Preston Ashford. It was worse than they'd thought. 12 years of systematic neighborhood destruction, 4 cases of suspicious deaths or disappearances connected to people who'd refused to sell, dozens of harassment complaints that went nowhere, payoffs to city officials, connections to organized crime in Phoenix and Las Vegas. The Ashfords weren't just developers. They were a criminal enterprise wrapped in expensive suits and legal paperwork. "This goes deep," Cypher said. "They've got judges, cops, city council members on the payroll. They're untouchable through normal channels." "Nobody's untouchable," Axel growled. "What about the feds?" Colt asked. "FBI? Anyone looking at them?" "There's one agent, Natasha Greer. She's been building a case for 3 years but can't get enough evidence for a warrant. Ashford's lawyers are too good." "Can we reach out to her?" "We could, but she's not going to trust an MC. Not without something solid." Colt nodded. "Then we get her something solid." That night, he couldn't sleep. Lay in his room at the clubhouse, staring at the ceiling, thinking about his mother. Thinking about the look on her face when Decker snapped his fingers at her. Thinking about how small she'd seemed, how tired. She'd been 28 when his father died, 48 when Colt got his first patch, 69 when she told him to leave, 76 now. How many years did she have left? 5? 10 if she was lucky? And she was spending them working on her feet, being disrespected by entitled children, too proud to ask for help. His phone buzzed. Text from Wade. "Decker's crew just left the diner. Mama Iris closing up. She's alone." Colt typed back, "Stay close, out of sight." He got up, paced. Every instinct screamed at him to ride over there, to be there, to protect her. But she didn't want his protection. She'd made that clear. So he did the only thing he could do. He waited. And he trusted his prospects to keep her safe. At midnight, Wade sent an all clear. "Home safe. Lights out. We're on watch." Colt finally closed his eyes, but sleep didn't come easy. The next day was quiet. Decker and his crew didn't show up at the diner. Iris worked her shift without incident. Colt spent the day on legitimate business. The club ran a motorcycle repair shop, a bar, and a security company. All legal, all profitable, all necessary to keep the IRS off their backs. But his mind wasn't on business. It was on the calm before the storm. Because it was too quiet. Predators like Decker didn't just stop, they escalated. At 8:47 p.m., his instincts proved correct. Wade's call came in frantic. "Boss, boss, they're back. All 4 of them. Drunk. Iris is here with just Dusty and one old couple. They're..." In the background, Colt heard raised voices. His mother's voice, trying to stay calm. "Gentlemen, please." Then Decker slurring, "Shut up, old woman. You should have retired years ago." Crash. Something breaking. Wade's voice. "Boss, I'm going in." "Stay where you are. I'm 10 minutes out. Do not engage until I arrive." Colt was already moving. Gabbed his cut. Yelled through the clubhouse. "Code Black, Mama Iris, now!" 24 brothers dropped everything. Engines roared to life. They rode through the night like avenging angels. Colt pushed 140 on the highway. Rain started falling. He didn't slow down. 8 minutes. 7. 6. His phone rang again. Wade, voice shaking. "Boss, he hit her. Decker slapped her. She's on the floor. I'm going in right now. Hold position. I'm 2 minutes out." The longest 2 minutes of his life. When he finally saw the diner, its neon sign glowing in the rain, he didn't slow down. Didn't park properly. Just stopped the bike, dropped it, and walked through the door. The bell chimed. Everyone turned. Decker and his 3 friends stood in the middle of the diner. One of them held a broken plate. Another was laughing. Dusty stood behind the counter, one hand under the bar where he kept his shotgun. The old couple huddled in their booth, terrified. And on the floor, struggling to get up, was his mother. Blood at the corner of her mouth, hand pressed to her cheek, eyes shocked and hurt, and trying so hard to be brave. Colt looked at her, just for a second, long enough for her to see him, long enough for her to whisper, "Colt." Then he turned to Decker. The rain hammered on the roof. Thunder rolled in the distance, and Colt Thornton smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, You just made the worst mistake of your entire lives. The silence in the diner stretched like a wire pulled too tight. Rain hammered the windows. Thunder growled somewhere over the desert. And Colt Thornton stood perfectly still, water dripping from his leather cut, his eyes locked on the four men who had just struck his mother. Decker Ashford recovered first. His face flushed red, whether from alcohol or embarrassment, Colt couldn't tell. Didn't care. "Who the hell are you?" Colt didn't answer. He walked slowly to his mother, each footstep deliberate, measured. Behind him, the door opened again. Axel, then Bones, then 20 more brothers, all wearing their cuts, all dripping rain, all perfectly silent. The diner filled with leather and chrome and barely restrained violence. Colt knelt beside his mother, took her hand, helped her stand. She was shaking, trying not to, trying to be strong. "I'm okay," she whispered. "I'm okay, baby." "I know you are, Ma." His voice was gentle, the voice he'd used when he was 10 years old and she'd burned her hand on the stove. "But I need you to go sit down now. Can you do that for me?" She nodded, let Dusty guide her to a booth. Only then did Colt stand and face Decker. Up close, he could smell the expensive cologne, the whiskey, the entitlement that came from never being told no. Decker was soft, pampered, the kind of man who'd never done a day's real work in his life. "You hit her," Colt said. Not a question, a statement. She was being disrespectful. She needed to learn. The rest of the sentence died when Colt took one step forward. Just one. But it was enough to make all four of them step back. "Name," Colt said again. "Decker Ashford. My father is Preston Ashford. He owns half this city. You touch me, you'll—" "I asked for your name, not your resume." Colt tilted his head slightly. "Decker Ashford, son of Preston Ashford, real estate developer, $400 million net worth. Currently purchasing property in this area for development. Did I miss anything?" Decker's eyes widened. "How do you—" "I know everything about you, Decker. Your trust fund, your DUI from 2019, the assault charge in Scottsdale that Daddy's lawyers made disappear, the 3 other neighborhoods your family destroyed, the 4 people who mysteriously vanished when they refused to sell." Colt smiled, still not nice. "I know what you eat for breakfast." Fear flickered Decker's face. "You can't threaten me. I'll call the police." "Go ahead." Colt gestured to the phone on the counter. "Call them." Decker pulled out his cell. His hands shook. He dialed, put it on speaker. The dispatcher answered. 911, what's your emergency?" "I'm at Dusty's Route 66 diner. I'm being threatened by a gang. Send police immediately." "We'll have units there in 15 minutes, sir." Decker hung up, looked triumphant. "You're done." Colt glanced at Axel. His VP was smirking. 15 minutes, Colt said. "That's actually perfect timing." He walked to Decker, close enough that he could count the beads of sweat on the man's forehead, close enough to smell the fear beneath the cologne. "Here's what's going to happen. You have 72 hours to leave this area. That means you don't come back to this diner. You don't come back to this neighborhood. You don't even drive through this zip code. Are we clear? Or what? Or I'll show you what happens when you mess with my family." "Your family?" Decker's eyes darted to Iris. "That old bitch is your—" Colt's hand shot out, grabbed Decker by the throat. Didn't squeeze, just held him. Let him feel the strength in those fingers, the calluses from years of working with his hands, the barely controlled fury. "That old woman," Colt said very quietly, "is my mother. And you just made this personal." He released Decker, stepped back. 72 hours. Don't test me. Decker and his 3 friends scrambled for the door, practically ran to their Mercedes. Tires squealed as they pulled away. The moment they were gone, Colt turned to his mother. She was sitting in the booth, hands folded on the table, that look on her face, the one he remembered from childhood. Disappointment and anger and fear all mixed together. Colt Thornton, she said. What have you done? He walked over, slid into the booth across from her. Up close, he could see the bruise forming on her cheek, the split in her lower lip, the tremor in her hands that she was trying to hide. I protected you, Ma. I didn't ask for your protection. No, you asked me to stay away. I did. For 7 years, I stayed away. But staying away doesn't mean I stopped caring. You've been watching me. Not a question, she knew, had probably known for years. Yes. Why? Because you're my mother. Because I love you. Because even though you told me to leave, I couldn't let anything happen to you. Iris's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them away. You followed me, spied on me, violated my privacy. I kept you safe. I don't need you to keep me safe. Really? Colt gestured to her face. Because from where I'm sitting, you just got assaulted by 4 drunk idiots. And if I hadn't been watching, who knows how much worse it could have been. The police don't give a damn about a 76-year-old waitress getting roughed up by rich kids, and you know it. His voice was harder now, frustrated. You want to be independent? Fine. You want to work yourself to death in this diner? That's your choice, but don't ask me to pretend I don't care when someone hurts you. They sat in silence. Rain on the roof, the hum of the refrigerator behind the counter, Dusty wiping down tables, pretending not to listen. Finally, Iris spoke. Those men, Jericho and Wade, the ones who've been coming here for breakfast every day for years, they work for you. Yes. They've been watching me this whole time. Yes. Did you tell them to befriend me? To make me think they were just nice customers? I told them to keep you safe. How they did it was up to them. Iris shook her head. I thought they were my friends. They are your friends, Ma. They care about you. Ask them. They'll tell you. They work for you. They're my prospects. But they volunteered for this assignment. Nobody forced them. Outside, sirens approached. 2 police cruisers pulled up. Officers came in, hands on their belts, assessing the situation. The senior officer, a sergeant with 20 years on the job, looked at the room full of bikers inside. Somebody want to tell me what happened here? Dusty spoke up. 4 men came in drunk and disorderly. They assaulted my employee. These gentlemen stopped them from doing worse. The sergeant looked at Iris. Ma'am, is that accurate? She hesitated, glanced at Colt, then nodded. Yes, officer, that's what happened. You want to press charges? Another hesitation. I don't know. We have video, Dusty said. He pointed to the security camera in the corner. Got the whole thing on tape, clear as day. The sergeant made notes, got statements from Iris, Dusty, and the elderly couple who'd witnessed everything. Never once asked the bikers for their version. When he was done, he approached Colt. You're Thornton, Devil's disciples. That's right. I'm going to guess those 4 men won't be filing a complaint. I'd say that's a safe bet. And I'm going to guess they won't be coming back to this neighborhood. Also a safe bet. The sergeant looked at Iris, then back at Colt. Understanding crossed his face. You know this woman? She's my mother. Ah, the sergeant nodded slowly. Well, we'll file this report. If those men show up again, call us. We'll handle it properly. Appreciate it, Sergeant. After the police left, the brothers started filing out. Axel paused at the door. We'll be at the clubhouse. You need anything, you call. Colt nodded. Soon it was just him, Iris, and Dusty in the diner. Dusty locked the front door and flipped the sign to closed. I'm going to count the register in the back, he said. Take your time. Alone with his mother, Colt didn't know what to say. 7 years of silence. 7 years of distance, and now here they were, sitting across from each other in a diner at 10 o'clock at night. I should take you to the hospital, he said finally. Get that cheek looked at. It's just a bruise. Ma, I said it's fine. She touched her lip gingerly. I've had worse. That statement hit him harder than he expected. When? When have you had worse? She didn't answer. Ma, has this happened before? Have people been? No, not like this. She folded her hands on the table. But life is hard, Colt. People are cruel. I've learned to deal with it. You shouldn't have to. None of us should have to deal with a lot of things, but we do. Colt leaned back in the booth, looked at her, really looked, saw the gray hair, the lines around her eyes, the way her hands had aged, knuckles swollen from arthritis. When had that happened? When had his mother gotten old? I'm sorry, he said. For what? For not being here, for staying away, for making you choose between me and your principles. Iris's eyes softened. You didn't make me choose, baby. I made that choice myself, and I stand by it. I can't support violence. I can't support that life. I know. But I also can't stop loving you. You're my son. You'll always be my son. Something in Colt's chest loosened, something that had been tight for 7 years. Then let me help you. Please. Let me make sure you're safe. I don't want your money. I'm not offering money. I'm offering protection. Let Jericho and Wade keep watching over you. Let me know if anyone bothers you, that's all. And in return? No return. You're my mother. This isn't a transaction. She studied his face. He could see her working through it. Pride versus practicality. Independence versus reality. Those boys, she said finally, Jericho and Wade, they really volunteered for this? They did. Ask them yourself. I will, she paused. And if I agree to this arrangement, you stay away? Like before? That hurt, but he understood. If that's what you want, it's what I need, Colt. I can't watch you live that life. It breaks my heart every day. Then I'll stay away, but I'll keep you safe. That's the deal. She nodded slowly. All right, we have a deal. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Iris reached across the table and took his hand. Her skin was soft and papery, fragile in a way that terrified him. Your father would be proud of you, she said quietly. Colt's throat tightened. No, he wouldn't. He was a Marine. He stood for law and order. I'm an outlaw. He stood for protecting people who couldn't protect themselves, just like you do. She squeezed his hand. You're more like him than you know. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. Text from Cypher. Emergency, clubhouse, now. Colt stood. I have to go. Let me take you home first. I can drive myself. Ma, I'm fine, Colt. Wade and Jericho can follow me if it makes you feel better, but I'm driving my own car. He wanted to argue, didn't. Okay, but call me when you get home, please. I will. He started for the door, stopped, turned back. I love you, Ma. Tears filled her eyes again. I love you too, baby. He left before he could see her cry. The ride to the clubhouse took 15 minutes. By the time he arrived, every senior member was in the war room. Cypher had 3 laptops open, screens filled with data. What have you got? Colt demanded. Cypher turned one screen toward him. Preston Ashford just activated a legal team, filed restraining orders against you, Axel, and 6 other brothers. Claims you threatened his son with violence. He's not wrong. There's more. He's filed a civil suit against the club, $50 million in damages. Claims we're a criminal organization engaged in racketeering and intimidation. Axel slammed his fist on the table. He can't do that. We run legitimate businesses. He can, and he did. And with his connections, he might actually win. Cypher pulled up another file. But that's not the worst part. What's the worst part? He's petitioning the city to designate the Devil's Disciples as a criminal enterprise under RICO statutes. If it goes through, the feds can seize all our assets, the clubhouse, the businesses, everything. Colt felt the rage building again, controlled it, channeled it. He's coming after us because we protected my mother. No, Cypher said. He's coming after us because we're in his way. Your mom's situation just gave him the excuse he needed. Bones spoke up. So what's our move? We can't just roll over. We fight back, Colt said, but smart, not with fists, with evidence. He looked at Cypher. You said there's an FBI agent investigating Ashford? Natasha Greer, 3 years on the case, no concrete evidence. Get me a meeting with her. She's not going to trust an MC. She doesn't have to trust us. She just has to want Ashford bad enough to work with us. Axel leaned forward. What are you thinking? We give her what she needs, evidence, testimony, whatever it takes to bring Ashford down legally. We do this right. We don't just protect Mama Iris. We protect the whole neighborhood. Uncle Russ nodded from his corner. Smart play. Use the system against him. Can we do it in 72 hours? Bones asked. Before Decker comes back? We're going to have to. The next 3 days were a blur. Cypher dove deep into the Ashford family's digital footprint. Bank records, email servers, property transactions. He worked 18-hour days, living on energy drinks and determination. Axel and Bones canvassed the neighborhood, talked to every business owner, every resident, everyone who'd been affected by Ashford's development plans, collected stories, documented harassment, built a pattern. Colt met with FBI agent Natasha Greer in a Denny's parking lot at midnight on day 2. She was 44, tall, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She looked at him like he was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. You know I could arrest you right now, she said as she slid into his truck. You're wanted in 3 states for questioning. But you won't, because you want Ashford more than you want me. She almost smiled. You're direct, I like that. I'm told it's one of my better qualities. He pulled out a flash drive. Everything we have on Preston and Decker Ashford. 12 years of property acquisition, 4 suspicious deaths, payoffs to city officials, harassment campaigns, all documented. Greer took the drive. How did you get this information? Does it matter? Legally, yes. For a warrant? Absolutely. Then let's say an anonymous source provided it. You can verify everything independently. The data's real. She studied him. Why are you doing this? What's your angle? They hurt my mother. I want them to pay, but I want it done right, legal, so they can't wriggle out of it with expensive lawyers. Your mother, Greer said slowly, Iris Thornton, works at Dusty's Diner, 76 years old. You've done your homework. I do my job, Mr. Thornton, and part of my job is understanding motivation. She tapped the flash drive against her palm. You're telling me this is revenge? I'm telling you this is justice. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I sit, you're an outlaw biker gang leader who's using federal resources to settle a personal score. Colt met her eyes, held them. You've been chasing Ashford for 3 years. How many people has he hurt in that time? How many families has he displaced? How many lives has he destroyed while you waited for the perfect, legal, by-the-book evidence? She didn't answer. I'm offering you a shortcut. Take it or don't. But if you walk away, Ashford keeps destroying lives. And the next old woman he slaps might not have a son who gives a damn. Greer was silent for a long moment. Then she pocketed the flash drive. I'll verify this information. If it checks out, I'll move forward. But Mr. Thornton, if you or your club interferes with my investigation, I will bring the full weight of the federal government down on you. Are we clear? Crystal. She opened the door, paused. Your mother's lucky to have you. No, ma'am. I'm lucky to have her. After she left, Colt sat in his truck and called his mother. She answered on the 3rd ring. Colt, it's 1 in the morning. I know, sorry. Just wanted to check on you. I'm fine, in bed, where you should be. Can't sleep, she sighed. What did you do? What makes you think I did something? Because I'm your mother, I always know. He smiled despite himself. I'm handling the Ashford situation, the right way. Define right way. Legal channels, federal investigation, no violence. There was a long pause. You're serious? I told you I'd do it your way, Ma. I meant it. Another pause. Then, softly, thank you, baby. Get some sleep. I'll check on you tomorrow. Colt? Yeah? Be careful. Men like Preston Ashford don't fight fair. Neither do I, Ma. Neither do I. On day 3, everything went to hell. Colt was in the clubhouse garage, working on a bike, when Wade called. Panicked. Boss, we got a problem. Talk to me. Unknown vehicle just pulled up to the diner. Black SUV, tinted windows. 4 guys got out. They're not local. They're gunfire. Through the phone. 3 shots. 4. Wade screaming, "Get down! Get down!" Then the line went dead. Colt was on his bike before his brain caught up to his body, screaming for backup, racing through traffic, running red lights. His phone rang. Unknown number. Yeah. Mr. Thornton, Preston Ashford's voice, smooth, cultured, utterly calm. I believe you have something that belongs to me. What did you do? I simply retrieved my property. You had 72 hours to leave my son alone. Instead, you went to the FBI. That was very disappointing. If you hurt my mother, your mother is fine for now, but that can change very quickly if you don't listen carefully. Colt's hands were shaking on the handlebars, rage and fear fighting for dominance. What do you want? You will shut down your investigation. You will recall whatever evidence you gave to Agent Greer. You will issue a public apology to my son, and then you will disband your little motorcycle club and leave Arizona permanently. And if I don't, then the woman who raised you will suffer consequences you can't imagine. Do we understand each other? The line went dead. Colt called Axel. Code red, Mama Iris, full mobilization, every brother we have, now. But even as he said it, even as the club roared to life behind him, Colt knew the truth. Preston Ashford had just changed the game, and this time, playing by the rules wouldn't be enough. He thought about his mother, about the look in her eyes when she'd asked him to do things the legal way. He thought about his father, about duty and honor and protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. And he thought about the 72 hours he'd wasted trying to be civilized. When he reached the diner, his mother was gone. Wade and Jericho were on the ground, both wounded, both alive, bleeding but breathing. And on the counter, written in red lipstick, was a message. Ashford Estates, midnight, come alone or she dies. Colt stood in the empty diner, rain beginning to fall again outside, and made his decision. Some lines once crossed changed everything. Preston Ashford had just crossed one, and Colt Thornton was done playing by anyone's rules but his own. The clubhouse war room had never been this quiet. 30 brothers stood in silence waiting, every face carved from stone, every jaw set like iron. These were men who'd seen combat, who'd done time, who'd buried friends and enemies alike. But this was different. This was family. Colt stood at the head of the table, the lipstick message photographed and projected on the wall behind him. Ashford Estates, midnight, come alone or she dies. It's a trap, Axel said, stating the obvious because someone had to. I know. You go in there alone, you're not coming out. I know that too. Bones stepped forward, 55 years old, built like a brick wall, covered in prison tattoos that told stories he'd never speak aloud. Then we don't let you go in alone. We roll in with 200 brothers. We tear that mansion apart brick by brick until we find Mama Iris. And they kill her the second they hear your bikes, Colt said quietly. Preston Ashford didn't get to be worth $400 million by being stupid. He's got guards. He's got security. He's probably got cops on his payroll watching the perimeter. We go in hot. She dies. So what's the play? Uncle Rust asked from his corner. The old man's voice was steady, but his eyes showed something rare for him. Fear. He'd known Iris since Colt was 16, had been there when the telegram about Hank arrived, had watched her raise a son alone while working herself to the bone. Colt looked at each of them, his brothers, his family, the men who'd follow him into hell without question. I go in alone, just like he wants. The room erupted, voices overlapping, objections, curses, threats. Colt raised his hand. Silence fell like a hammer. But I don't go in unarmed, and I don't go in without backup. He turned to Cypher. You've been mapping the Ashford estate? Every building, every camera, every guard rotation for the past 48 hours. Cypher pulled up schematics on his laptop. The screen glowed blue in the dim room. Main house is 20,000 square feet. Security system is high-end, but not military grade. 6 guards on rotation, 2 at the main gate, 2 roaming the perimeter, 2 inside. Weak points? Service entrance on the east side, kitchen staff door. No camera coverage for about 15 feet due to a blind spot in their system. Can you exploit that? I can loop the feed, give you a 3-minute window, but that's all you get, 3 minutes. Then their system will detect the loop and lock down. Colt nodded, turned to Axel. I need you to position brothers in a 2-mile perimeter. No bikes, cars only, civilian clothes. They watch but don't engage unless I give the signal. What's the signal? You'll know it when you see it. He looked at Bones. Wade and Jericho, how bad are they? Wade took one in the shoulder, clean through. Jericho's got a concussion and 3 broken ribs, but they'll both live. Bones's face was grim. They're asking to come with you. I told them to stay put. They're not listening. Tell them when this is over, they're getting patched in. Full members. They earned it 10 times over. Colt's voice was firm. But tonight they rest. I need them alive, not heroes. Bones nodded. What about the FBI? Uncle Rust asked. Agent Greer, does she know about this? Not yet, Colt said, but she's about to. He pulled out his phone, dialed the number Greer had given him. She answered on the second ring, voice alert despite the hour. Thornton, it's 11 p.m. This better be good. Preston Ashford kidnapped my mother. He's holding her at his estate. He's demanding I disband my club and leave the state, or he'll kill her. Silence. He could hear her moving, a chair scraping, footsteps, the click of a lamp. When did this happen? 6 hours ago. He wants me there at midnight, alone. You can't go in there alone, that's suicide. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. You call the local police. You file a kidnapping report. You let law enforcement handle it. With all due respect, Agent Greer, Preston Ashford owns half the local police force. I call them. My mother dies while they're taking statements and filling out paperwork. He paused. You know I'm right. More silence. He could hear her thinking, calculating, the sound of a keyboard clicking. What do you need from me? A wire, something small, something their security won't detect. I get him talking, get him to confess. You get your evidence. You're asking me to use you as bait. I'm offering to be bait. There's a difference. And if something goes wrong, if he kills you before you get the confession, then you still have all the evidence we gave you. It'll have to be enough. Colt looked at the faces around him, his brothers. But I'm not planning on dying tonight. I've got too much unfinished business. Greer was quiet for a long moment. There's a 7-Eleven on Route 60, mile marker 247. Be there in 30 minutes. Come alone. See you there. He hung up, looked at his brothers. Gear up, civilian vehicles. Spread out, stay invisible. And if I'm not out of there by 12:30, he met Axel's eyes. You come in and burn it all down. Axel met his gaze, held it. You come back, brother. You hear me? You come back. I will. I got too much unfinished business with my mother to die tonight. The 7-Eleven was deserted, except for a bored clerk scrolling through his phone and Agent Greer's unmarked sedan parked under the fluorescent lights. Colt pulled in on his bike, killed the engine, and walked over. The desert night was cold, stars overhead like diamonds scattered on black velvet. She was waiting outside, leaning against her car, arms crossed. Even at this hour, she looked sharp, alert, ready. "You're insane," she said by way of greeting. "I've been called worse." She opened the trunk, pulled out a small case. Inside was a device no bigger than a button. "This is the best we have. Audio only. Battery life of 6 hours. Transmits to a receiver within a quarter-mile. I'll have someone nearby. The receiver records everything. Even if something happens to you, we'll have the audio." She looked at him hard. "But I need you to understand something, Thornton. I can't officially sanction this. If you go in there, you're on your own. The FBI can't help you." "I'm not asking for help. I'm asking for justice." She handed him the device. Their hands touched briefly. Her skin was cold from the night air. "Put it under your collar, inside your shirt. Don't let them pat you down if you can help it." He took it. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Just come out alive." She paused. "Your mother's lucky to have you." "No, ma'am." Colt looked out at the desert, at the darkness that stretched to the horizon. "I'm lucky to have her." 15 minutes later, Colt was suited up. The wire under his collar felt like a brand against his skin. He'd left his cut at the clubhouse, wore only jeans and a black t-shirt. No weapons, no phone, nothing that would make Preston suspicious. Axel handed him a small earpiece. "Cypher will be on the other end. He can hear everything. If you need us, just say the word." "What word?" "Reaper. You call yourself by your road name, we know you need us." Colt nodded, put in the earpiece. Heard Cypher's voice, tinny but clear. "Got you, boss. Signal is strong. 5 by 5. Stay sharp. Always." Before he left, Uncle Russ pulled him aside. The old man's hand on his shoulder felt like a blessing, like a prayer. "Your daddy would be proud of you tonight, boy. He'd think I was crazy." Same thing. Uncle Russ's eyes were wet. Colt had never seen him cry, not once in 30 years. "You bring that woman home, you hear me? You bring her home safe." "I will. And Colt, whatever happens in there, whatever you gotta do, you remember this. You're a good man. Don't let nobody tell you different." The ride to Ashford Estates took 20 minutes. Colt pushed the bike hard, leaning into curves, feeling the desert wind cut through his shirt. The mansion sat on 50 acres of pristine desert property, surrounded by walls and gates, and the kind of landscaping that cost more than most people made in a year. As he approached, he saw it all laid out before him like a fortress. Lights blazing, guards visible on the perimeter. This wasn't a home, it was a statement of power. Colt pulled up to the main gate at 11:57 p.m. 2 guards stepped out, both armed, both professional, the kind of men who'd done this before. "Out of the bike," one said. "Hands where we can see them." Colt complied slowly. Let them see he wasn't a threat. Let them think they were in control. They patted him down. Thorough, professional. Hands running down his sides, checking his waistband, his boots, his pockets. But they missed the wire. Too small, too well hidden, too far from where they expected trouble. "He's clean." They opened the gate. "Drive to the main house. Mr. Ashford is expecting you." The driveway curved through manicured gardens and past a fountain that probably cost more than the clubhouse. Water cascaded down marble tiers, lit from below, turning the droplets into liquid gold. The main house loomed ahead, all glass and stone and architectural arrogance. Preston Ashford stood on the front steps. Late 50s, silver hair perfectly styled even at midnight, wearing slacks and a cashmere sweater like this was a social call, like he hadn't just committed a federal felony. Behind him, 2 more guards. And in the doorway, half hidden in shadow, was Decker. His face still showed bruises from where he'd hit the floor in the diner. Colt killed the engine, dismounted, walked forward with his hands loose at his sides. Every step measured, every movement calculated. "Mr. Thornton," Preston said, voice warm and welcoming, like they were old friends. So glad you could join us. Right on time. I appreciate punctuality in a man. Where is she? Your mother? Safe, comfortable. We've been treating her like a guest, he smiled. Well, perhaps not quite like a guest. More like insurance. This is kidnapping, federal offense. You know that, right? Preston smiled wider. Kidnapping? No, no. Your mother came here of her own free will. Didn't you, Iris? A door opened. Iris walked out, flanked by two guards. Her face was pale but composed. The bruise on her cheek had darkened to purple and yellow. But she was walking, alive. Her eyes found Colt's and held them. Colt, she said quietly, her voice steady, stronger than he expected. Don't do this. Don't give them what they want. I'm afraid your son doesn't have much choice, Preston said. He gestured to the guards. They pushed Iris back inside, rougher than necessary. Now then, let's talk business. Shall we go inside? I have an excellent scotch, 50 years old, worth more than your motorcycle. I'm fine right here. Suit yourself. Preston clasped his hands behind his back, a professor giving a lecture. I'm a reasonable man, Mr. Thornton. I understand you were upset about the incident with Decker. Young men sometimes make mistakes. They drink too much. They behave poorly. It happens in the best families. He assaulted my mother, and I've spoken to him about that. It won't happen again. But you escalated the situation. You threatened my son. You went to federal authorities with false information. You've caused significant damage to my business and my reputation. Your reputation as a criminal, you mean? Preston's smile didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes, something cold. Careful, Mr. Thornton. You're on my property. My rules apply here. In his ear, Cypher's voice crackled. Boss, I've got movement on the perimeter. 3 more vehicles just pulled in through the service entrance. SUVs, tinted windows. This doesn't feel right. Colt kept his eyes on Preston, kept his face neutral. What do you want? I want you to disappear. You, your club, your entire operation. Gone from Arizona within 72 hours. You do that, your mother goes free. You don't, well, he shrugged, casual, like he was discussing the weather. Accidents happen, especially to elderly people living alone. You're threatening to kill a 76-year-old woman. I'm not threatening anything. I'm simply pointing out the realities of life. People die, Mr. Thornton. Your father did, in the Gulf, wasn't it? Gulf War, 1991. Ah, yes, terrible business war. So much death, so much suffering. Preston's eyes gleamed in the mansion lights. Did you know I was a defense contractor back then? Supplied equipment to various units. Made quite a fortune. Built this empire, actually, all thanks to Desert Storm. Colt's blood ran cold. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to move, to attack, to wrap his hands around Preston's throat and squeeze until... No, not yet. Keep him talking. What are you saying? I'm saying your father and I have history. Distant history, but history nonetheless. Preston smiled, like a shark, like a predator that knows it's won. Small world, isn't it? In his ear. Boss, recording all of this. Keep him talking. We need details. You supplied equipment to my father's unit. Among others, body armor, as I recall. Not my best work, admittedly. There were some quality control issues. But war is chaotic. Margins are tight. The military wanted cheap. I gave them cheap. He shrugged again. These things happen. Quality control issues. Colt's voice was flat, dead. My father died because his vest failed. Did he? I'm sure that's very sad for you. Preston tilted his head, studying Colt like a specimen. But you must understand, in business, particularly in defense contracting, there are acceptable loss rates. The vests were within parameters, mostly. You knew. You knew the vests were faulty, and you supplied them anyway. I knew they were adequate for the price point. If some of them failed in the field, well, that's the nature of combat. Soldiers die. It's what they sign up for. My father wrote reports. He tried to get the vests recalled. Preston's smile faded slightly, just for a moment, then it returned, harder. Your father was a troublemaker, always complaining, always making waves. He tested the vests himself, documented failure rates, took photographs. He was going to blow the whistle on my entire operation. What did you do? I did what any businessman would do. I protected my interests. Preston took a step closer, confident now, in control. I made a phone call to a general I'd paid very well over the years. Your father's next assignment was moved up. Instead of staying stateside for another 6 months, he was deployed immediately to the most dangerous sector, Fallujah, where the fighting was heaviest. Colt felt something break inside him. Not rage, something colder, clearer, like ice forming over still water. You didn't just let him die, you arranged it. I removed an obstacle. Your father was going to cost me hundreds of millions in contracts, lost reputation, possible criminal charges. Preston spread his hands. What would you have done in my position? I wouldn't have sold faulty equipment to soldiers in the first place. Of course you wouldn't. You're an idealist, like your father, and look where that got him. Dead at 42, leaving behind a widow and a teenage boy. Preston's smile turned cruel. At least you got to know him. At least you remember his face. That's more than some get. In his ear, Cypher's voice was urgent. Boss, that's murder. Premeditated murder. We've got him. But Colt barely heard. All he could see was his mother's face. 14 years old, opening the door to 2 Marines in dress blues. The telegram in their hands. The way her knees had buckled. The way she'd screamed. And this man, this monster in expensive clothes, he'd caused it all. Boss, Cypher again. Say the word. We can be there in 3 minutes. Not yet, Colt thought. Not while Ma's in danger. Crystal clear, he said aloud, answering Preston's earlier question. Good. Now, as I was saying, you have a choice. Leave Arizona, disband your club, walk away from all of this, or your mother dies. It's really very simple. And if I agree, how do I know you'll let her go? You don't. You'll have to trust me. Trust the man who just admitted to murdering my father. Preston shrugged. Your father's death was business. This is also business. Nothing personal. It's personal to me. Yes, I can see that, which is why I know you'll make the right choice. You love your mother. You'll do anything to protect her, including walking away. He checked his watch. Expensive. Gold. Probably cost $50,000. You have 60 seconds to decide. Then I give the order and your mother joins your father. Colt looked at the house, at the windows where his mother was being held, at Decker standing on the steps with that smug smile. He thought about his father, about honor and duty in doing what was right. He thought about his mother, about sacrifice and love and impossible choices. And he thought about the 14-year-old boy who'd watched his mother collapse in grief, who'd sworn on that day that he'd never let anyone hurt her again. You're right, he said quietly. I'll do anything to protect her. Preston smiled. Victory. Excellent. Then we have a deal. But here's the thing about deals, Colt continued. They have to be based on trust. And I don't trust you. The smile faded. Excuse me? I think even if I walk away, you'll kill her. You'll kill her because she's a loose end. Because she knows what you did. Because she heard you confess to murdering my father. Because you're the kind of man who eliminates problems. That's a very serious accusation. And I think you've already killed before. 4 people. 4 people who stood in your way in other neighborhoods. 4 people who mysteriously vanished when they wouldn't sell their property. Colt took a step forward. The guards tensed. You're not a businessman, Ashford. You're a serial killer in a suit. Preston's face hardened, the mask slipping. "You're testing my patience, Mr. Thornton. I'm stating facts. You're a killer, a thief, a man who profits off other people's suffering. You murdered soldiers, you murdered civilians, and you think because you wear expensive clothes and live in a mansion, you're better than me. I am better than you. I'm a legitimate businessman. You're a criminal, an outlaw, a thug in leather. We're both criminals. The difference is, I don't pretend to be anything else. I don't hide behind lawyers and politicians and blood money." Colt smiled. "Not nice, not friendly. And I don't murder people who get in my way. I look them in the eye first." Preston nodded to his guards. "I think we're done here. Take Mr. Thornton to the basement. Put him with his mother. Let them say goodbye before—" The door burst open. Not from an explosion, from inside. Iris stood there, flanked by two guards who were looking confused. Because she'd done something, said something, moved wrong. He couldn't tell, but she was there. And she was looking at Preston, and her eyes were filled with something Colt had never seen before. Pure hatred. "You killed him!" Her voice cut through the night like a blade. "You didn't just let Hank die, you murdered him!" "Ma, get back inside," Colt started. But Iris wasn't listening. She was walking toward Preston, 76 years old, barely 5 feet tall, shaking with grief and rage and 34 years of suppressed pain. He was a good man, a hero. He saved lives. He served his country. He wrote letters home to his baby boy. He counted down the days until he could hold us again. Tears streamed down her face. "And you killed him for money?" Preston raised his hand, gestured to a guard. "Get her under control." The guard moved toward Iris, and Colt snapped. He drove his elbow back into the ribs of the guard holding his right arm, felt bone crack, spun, grabbed the second guard's rifle, yanked it free, used it like a club across the man's face. Both guards went down. "Reaper!" Colt shouted. "Now!" The explosion answered him. Not just one, 3, 4, 5. Cypher's drones dropping flashbangs and smoke grenades in perfect sequence. Timed, coordinated, beautiful in their violence. The estate erupted into chaos. Windows shattered. Alarms screamed. Guards scattered like roaches when the lights come on. Preston dove behind a stone column. Decker ran for the house, and Colt was already moving. He sprinted through the smoke, found Iris on the ground where she dropped when the first explosion hit, scooped her up. She weighed nothing, like holding a bird. "Hold on to me, Ma. Don't let go." "Colt, I got you. I got you. Just hold on." Behind them, guards were regrouping, shouting orders. Colt heard the distinctive rack of shotguns being chambered, the bark of radios, the organized chaos of professional security responding to a breach. He ran for the front door. It burst open. Two guards, rifles raised, eyes wild. Colt didn't slow down, didn't stop, just lowered his shoulder and hit them both like a linebacker. 300 pounds of momentum. They went down in a tangle of limbs and curses. Colt kept moving. Through the foyer, crystal chandelier swaying overhead from the explosions, casting crazy shadows. Marble floor slick with champagne from a shattered bar cart. The smell of expensive alcohol mixing with smoke and cordite. "The bike!" Iris gasped. "Colt, your bike's out front." "I know, we're almost there." More guards appeared. From a hallway to the right, 3 of them, weapons drawn. Colt didn't slow down, just lowered his head and hit the antique door leading outside like a battering ram. It splintered, $10,000 worth of mahogany reduced to kindling. They burst onto the front steps. The driveway stretched ahead. His Harley sat exactly where he'd left it, chrome glinting in the mansion lights. 60 yards away, may as well have been 60 miles. "Run!" someone screamed behind them. A guard, young, panicked. "Don't let them reach the bike." Colt hit the ground running. Iris clutched to his chest like when she'd carried him as a baby, the circle completing itself, parent and child, protector and protected, switching roles in the space of a breath. 50 yards. Gunfire erupted, not warning shots, real fire. Bullets kicked up gravel to their left, their right, close enough to feel the displaced air. 40 yards. A guard stepped out from behind a sculpted topiary, $10,000 worth of ornamental bushes, raised his rifle, took careful aim at Colt's center mass. The crack of a distant shot rang out. The guard spun, went down, red bloom spreading across his white shirt. "Sniper in position, boss." Bones's voice came through the earpiece. Calm, professional. "Keep moving, I got you covered." 30 yards, more gunfire, closer now. Colt felt something tug at his jacket, felt heat across his left shoulder. Wet, warm, hit, but not bad. He kept running. Adrenaline was a hell of a drug. 20 yards. Preston appeared on the steps behind them, screaming, face twisted with rage, all pretense of civility gone. "Stop them! Kill them! I don't care how, just kill them both!" Another explosion. This one right behind Preston, close enough to knock him off his feet. He dove for cover, disappeared behind a stone planter. 15 yards. 10. Colt reached the bike, set Iris down carefully. "Get on! Move!" She climbed on, slower than he wanted, her hands shaking, but she made it. He jumped on in front, key already in the ignition from earlier. His hands shook as he turned it, blood making his fingers slippery. The engine roared to life, that beautiful, perfect, life-saving sound, thunder and power in freedom. "Hold on tight." Iris wrapped her arms around his waist, squeezed. "I got you, baby." He dumped the clutch. The bike surged forward like it had been shot from a cannon. The main gate was ahead, still partially open from when he'd entered, but closing. Someone in the guardhouse had their hand on the button, shutting them in, 50 miles an hour, 60. The gate was at 40% open, 35, 30, 70 miles an hour. "Colt!" Iris screamed. "We're not going to make it." "Yes, we are." 80. The gap was barely 3 feet now. Metal bars sliding across their escape route, cutting them off. Colt made a calculation. Speed, distance, width. The kind of math you don't do with numbers. The kind you do with instinct and desperation and love. He leaned left, cranked the bike into a slide. Metal shrieked against metal as they scraped through. Sparks flew, paint stripped away. Chrome scraped down to bare steel. But they made it. Through the gap. Onto the road. Free. Behind them, the gate clanged shut, trapping Preston's guards inside. Trapping Preston inside. Colt didn't slow down, gunned it harder. 90. 100. 110. The bike screamed, protesting, but holding together. Headlights appeared ahead. His first thought, roadblock, more guards. Then he saw the patches, Devil's Disciples. 20 brothers on bikes, 30 more in cars and trucks forming a wall across the road. Protection, safety, brotherhood. Axel pulled his bike in front of the rest, raised his fist high, the signal. All clear, come home. Colt finally let himself breathe, eased off the throttle, pulled in beside Axel. "You good?" "I'm hit. Shoulder. Not bad." Colt looked down, blood soaking through his shirt. More than he'd thought. Maybe medium bad. "Mama Iris?" Colt felt her arms around his waist. Still there, still holding on, still alive. "I'm okay," she said, voice shaking now, adrenaline wearing off, reality setting in. "I'm okay, baby. Are you?" "I'm fine, Ma. Doc will patch me up." Axel's face was grim. "Get them out of here, now, before local cops show up. Move!" They formed a convoy, bikes in front and back, cars boxing them in on all sides. An armored escort racing through the Arizona night, protecting their own, the way they always had, the way they always would. Behind them, sirens wailed. Red and blue lights lit up the horizon like fireworks. But they wouldn't catch up. Not tonight. Not ever. The Brotherhood had its own. And nobody, not billionaires, not corrupt cops, not the devil himself, took from the Brotherhood. Not without paying the price. They rode for 20 minutes, through back roads and desert trails, places the cops wouldn't know, places only locals understood. Pulled into an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. Safe house, prearranged, stocked with medical supplies and food and everything they might need. Only when they were inside, doors closed, guards posted at every entrance, did Colt finally let himself feel the pain. His shoulder was on fire, the adrenaline wearing off, reality settling in like a weight. Iris slid off the bike, her legs buckled. Colt caught her with his good arm. "You okay, Ma? Did they hurt you?" I'm fine, baby." She looked at his shoulder, at the blood. Her face went white. "But you're not. Oh God, Colt, you're bleeding." "It's nothing, just a graze." "That's not a graze, that's—" "Doc!" Axel called out. "We need you here." Sarah Doc emerged from the back. 42 years old, former Army medic. She'd seen worse in Kabul, but her face was serious as she examined Colt's shoulder. "Through and through. Missed the bone. You're lucky." "Doesn't feel lucky." "It will when you still have full range of motion in 3 months." She pulled out supplies. Antiseptic, gauze, sutures. "This is gonna hurt. It already hurts. It's gonna hurt worse." She was right. 10 minutes later, Colt sat on a folding chair, shoulder bandaged, arm in a sling. Iris sat beside him, holding his good hand, not saying anything, just holding on. Agent Greer's car pulled up outside. She walked in, face grim but eyes bright, victorious. "Tell me you got all that," Colt said. Every word. Preston Ashford confessing to defense contract fraud, admitting knowledge of faulty equipment that led to deaths of American soldiers, admitting to deliberately reassigning Staff Sergeant Hank Thornton to get him killed, threatening to murder witnesses, kidnapping, the whole thing. She smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a hunter who'd finally caught her prey. "I have enough to arrest him, his son, and half his organization." "When?" "FBI Tactical is raiding the estate right now. SWAT, hostage rescue, the works. We'll have them in custody within the hour." Colt nodded, felt the weight of everything settling on his shoulders. The pain, the exhaustion, the 34 years of not knowing, of wondering, of his mother crying herself to sleep and pretending she was fine. And now they knew. Iris touched his arm, careful, avoiding the injury. "Colt, what he said about your father, about the vests, about Fallujah." "I know, Ma. He killed Hank, as surely as if he'd pulled the trigger himself." "I know." She looked at him, really looked at him, seeing past the leather and the tattoos and the outlaw life she'd spent 7 years rejecting. "And you didn't kill him. You got him arrested instead. That's what you wanted, the legal way." Tears filled her eyes, spilled over, 34 years of tears. "I was wrong. About so many things. About you. About your life. About thinking I could just walk away and pretend none of it existed." "Ma, let me finish." She gripped his hand tighter, her skin papery and thin but her grip iron. "You're not your father, but you're not a criminal either. You're something in between. Something I didn't understand. You protect people. You stand up to bullies. You fight for justice when the system fails. And yes, you do it outside the law sometimes, but you do it with honor." Colt felt his throat tighten. 14-year-old boy, 48-year-old man. Didn't matter. She was still his mother. "I'm still an outlaw." "Yes, but you're my outlaw." She pulled him into a hug, careful of his shoulder. "And I'm sorry it took me 7 years to see that. I'm sorry I made you choose. I'm sorry I wasn't there. You're here now. I'm here now." They stood there, mother and son, while around them the club prepared for whatever came next. Uncle Rust approached slowly, put his hand on Colt's good shoulder. "Your daddy would be proud of you tonight, boy." Iris looked up. "He would, Russell. He really would." "Hank was my best friend," Uncle Russ said quietly. "Did you know that, Iris? Before he deployed, we used to work on bikes together. He told me if anything ever happened to him, I should look after you two. I tried, but you didn't want help. I was stubborn. You were grieving, and proud, and determined to do it yourself." He looked at Colt. "But this boy here, he turned out all right. Better than all right. He's the best of both of you." The FBI worked fast. By 2 a.m., Preston Ashford was in federal custody. Decker with him, the guards, the lawyers who'd helped cover it all up, the politicians on the payroll. The whole rotten structure came crashing down. By dawn, Agent Greer had 3 more arrests. People connected to the 4 disappearances. Evidence that had been hidden for years. Bodies that might finally be found. The news trucks showed up at 6 a.m., helicopters by 7. The story was too big to contain. Too perfect. Billionaire defense contractor arrested for murder. Outlaw motorcycle club helps FBI. Old woman gets justice for fallen husband. It was the kind of story America loved. 2 days later, Preston Ashford and Decker Ashford were arraigned on federal charges. The courthouse packed with media, victims, families of soldiers who died in faulty vests. Colt and Iris sat in the front row. She held his hand through the whole thing. When Preston was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, he looked smaller, diminished, just a scared old man facing the end. He looked at Colt once, just once. Colt stared back, didn't smile, didn't gloat, just looked. Preston looked away first. The evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the financial documents, testimony from victims, testimony from soldiers who'd survived when the vest failed, testimony from families who'd lost loved ones. Preston's lawyers argued. Preston's money bought the best legal defense in the country. It didn't matter. 3 months later, he was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. Decker got 12. The guards got 5 to 8. The politicians who'd taken bribes were removed from office, arrested, tried. The whole empire collapsed in weeks. And in a diner on Route 66, an old woman worked her shift, serving coffee and eggs to truckers and travelers. But now, every Sunday morning, a man in a leather cut came in, sat in the corner booth, ordered 2 eggs over easy, bacon, and wheat toast. And after the breakfast rush, Iris would take her break, sit across from her son, and they would talk. Not about the past, not about regrets, just about life, about the weather, about nothing and everything. One Sunday, Colt brought something wrapped in brown paper. "What's this?" Iris asked. "Open it." She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a frame, and inside the frame was a photograph. Hank Thornton in his Marine uniform, young, strong, smiling, and next to it, a medal, the Bronze Star, awarded posthumously for valor. "Where did you get this?" I requested his service records, asked for a review. The Army looked into his reports about the vests, about Ashford, about everything. Colt's voice was thick. "They can't bring him back, but they can honor him properly. He's being recognized. There's going to be a ceremony next month." Iris touched the photo, traced her husband's face with one finger. "He would have liked that. Will you come to the ceremony?" "Of course." She looked at her son. "We'll go together." 1 year later, Iris Thornton turned 77. The Devil's Disciples threw her a birthday party at the clubhouse. 50 brothers, their families, the whole community that had rallied around them. Dusty was there, Agent Greer, even the sergeant who'd responded to the diner that night. She stood at the head of the table, looking at all these rough, scarred men who'd adopted her as their own, who called her Mama Iris, who'd die for her without question. "Thank you," she said simply, "all of you, for giving me my son back. Colt stood beside her, put his arm around her shoulders. Speech, someone called out. She shook her head. I'm not good at speeches, but I'll say this. I spent 7 years trying to protect my son from the life he chose, trying to pull him away from all of you. I was wrong. She looked around the room. You're not criminals. You're family. You're brothers. And you took better care of my boy than I ever could. You kept him honest. You kept him safe. You gave him purpose. That's not true, Ma, Colt said quietly. It is. I tried to make you into something you're not, something safe, something that wouldn't break my heart if I lost you. She squeezed his hand. But you can't cage an eagle and call it protection. You can only trust it to fly. Uncle Rust raised his beer, voice thick with emotion. To Mama Iris. The whole room echoed. To Mama Iris. Later, after the party wound down, Colt and Iris sat outside on the clubhouse porch. The desert stretched out before them, stars infinite overhead. The kind of sky that makes you believe in something bigger. Your father would be proud, Iris said, of both of us. You think? I know. He believed in standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it costs you everything. She looked at her son. You did that. You stood up, you fought back, and you did it the right way, your way and his way, together. With a little bit of the wrong way mixed in. The best solutions usually are. They sat in comfortable silence. A coyote howled somewhere in the distance. The wind carried the smell of sage and creosote and rain that might come tomorrow. I'm sorry I stayed away so long, Colt said. I'm sorry I asked you to. We both made mistakes. Yes, but we get to fix them now. We get tomorrow, and the day after, and all the days until there are no more days. Iris stood, kissed her son's forehead like she used to when he was small. I should get home, work tomorrow. Ma, you know you don't have to work anymore. The club would take care of you. I'd take care of you. The settlement from Ashford's assets could set you up for life. I know, but I like working. I like feeling useful. She smiled. Besides, where else am I going to get first-hand gossip about everyone in town? He walked her to her car, a new one, not from the settlement, from the club. They'd surprised her on her birthday. She'd cried, then yelled at them for spending money on her, then cried again and accepted it. Drive safe. I will. Jericho and Wade are following me home anyway. They don't have to do that anymore. They're full members now. They don't have babysitting duty. I know, but I asked them to. Turns out I like having them around. They tell good stories. She got in the car, rolled down the window. Same time next Sunday? Wouldn't miss it for the world. He watched her taillights disappear into the desert night, stood there long after she was gone, feeling the wind, smelling the sage, thinking about second chances and redemption, and all the years they'd lost, and all the years they might still have. Axel came out, handed him a beer. She's good people. The best. You did good, brother. Saved her. Got the bad guys. Kept the club intact. Found justice for your father. Not bad for a few weeks' work. Couldn't have done it without you. Without all of you. That's what brothers are for. Axel took a long pull from his beer. You know, when you first patched in, I had my doubts. Thought you were too angry, too reckless, too much like your old man. And now? Now I know you're exactly like your old man, in all the best ways. They stood in silence, watching the stars, the universe spinning overhead, indifferent to human drama, but beautiful in its indifference. Think it's over? Axel asked. The Ashford thing? Yeah, FBI's still finding connections. More people getting arrested. More neighborhoods getting justice. But the head's been cut off. The snake's dead. Good, then maybe we can get back to regular business. What's regular business? I don't know anymore. Maybe we should find out. Colt smiled, drained his beer. Sounds like a plan. Inside the clubhouse, music started up. Someone had put on Skinnerd, Freebird. The brothers were settling in for a long night of drinking and stories and brotherhood. The kind of night that makes the hard days worth it. Colt started to go in, stopped, looked up at the stars one more time. Somewhere up there his father was watching. Hank Thornton, Marine, hero. The man who died because someone put profit over people. The man who tried to do the right thing and paid for it with his life. "We got him, Dad," Colt said quietly to the stars. "Ashford, we got him, and we did it right. We did it your way and my way. We did it together. You and me and Ma. Family." The wind picked up, warm desert air carrying the scent of rain that might come tomorrow, or the next day, or never. Desert rain was like that, a promise that might or might not be kept. Colt took it as an answer, took it as a blessing. He went inside, back to his brothers, back to his life, back to the man he was and the man he was becoming. Somewhere in between outlaw and hero, somewhere in between violence and honor, somewhere human. And somewhere on a dark highway, an old woman drove home, listening to the radio, thinking about her son, thinking about her husband, thinking about the long road that had led them all here. Finally, at peace. The road stretched out ahead of all of them, long and uncertain and full of possibility. But they'd face it together. Family, brotherhood, honor. And that, in the end, was all that mattered. That was everything.